For 10 years, I did the work of 3 people and got paid like I barely did one. That sounds dramatic, I know. But when you spend a decade being the first one in the office and the last one to leave, fixing problems no one else even noticed, carrying entire systems on your back while everyone else clocked out at 5, you start to realize something uncomfortable. This isn't normal, but I ignored that voice for years. Because I was reliable, because I was loyal, because I believed naively that hard work would eventually speak for itself. My name is Ruby Dean, and for 10 years, I gave everything to Hallbrook Operations Group. Late nights, missed weekends, canceled plans. I became the person everyone depended on, but no one really saw. Every year. There was always a reason I wasn't promoted. Next quarter, budget constraints, not the right timing. And like an idiot, I believed them until that Tuesday morning. It was raining outside, the kind of steady, gray rain that makes everything feel heavier than it already is. The conference room smelled like burnt coffee and cheap air freshener. Everyone was gathered for what I thought would be just another routine announcement. I didn't know. It was the moment everything would break. My manager, Lorraine Whitaker, stood at the front of the room with that polished smile she always wore when she was about to say something that sounded good, but meant nothing. "I'm excited to share some great news," she said. And for a second, I actually thought, finally. This is it. Finally, they see me. I had no idea. I was about to become invisible all over again. Before we go any further, take a moment to subscribe if you believe that hard work deserves to be recognized, not quietly taken advantage of. I'd also love to know where you're listening from and what the temperature is there right now. This is a fictional story. Some elements were created with the help of artificial intelligence. The purpose is to educate, inspire, and entertain. All right, let me tell you how everything really unfolded. Lorraine's smile widened as she glanced toward the door, then back at the room like she was about to unveil something impressive. "I'm thrilled to announce that we've found the perfect person to step into a key leadership role," she said. Her voice bright and rehearsed. My chest tightened slightly. A quiet, cautious hope started to rise. Then she said the name. "Emily Carter will be joining us as our new senior operations coordinator." The words didn't land right away. They just hung there, suspended in the air like something my brain refused to process. Senior operations coordinator. My role. The position I had been unofficially filling for nearly 10 years. Polite applause filled the room. Chairs shifted. A few people smiled and nodded like this was completely normal, like nothing about this was off. I didn't clap, because sitting right next to Lorraine was Emily. I recognized her instantly. I had met her twice before, once when she stopped by the office after church with Lorraine, and again just 2 weeks ago when she shadowed for a couple of days. She gave a small, proud smile, like she had just earned something. And maybe that's what hit me the hardest, because I remembered something else too, on her second day in the office. She had turned to me, completely serious, and asked, "Hey, how do you open a spreadsheet file again?" I thought she was joking. She wasn't. And now she was being introduced as leadership. Lorraine continued talking about fresh perspective and natural leadership energy. But her words blurred together. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my jaw tightening as I waited. Just waited, for her to say something else. Anything. To acknowledge the years I had given. To recognize the work everyone in that room knew I had been doing. Instead, she turned to me with that same polished smile. "Ruby, you'll help Emily get up to speed and transition your responsibilities over the next few weeks. We all need to support each other as a team." Just like that, 10 years reduced to a handoff. No discussion, no recognition, no choice. Something inside me went very still. Not anger, not yet. Just a quiet, sharp clarity. And for the first time in a long time, I stopped trying to understand it. If you believe the manager did the right thing by giving the promotion to her friend, instead of recognizing years of hard work, just comment agree. But if you feel something about this situation isn't right, that loyalty and effort should mean more, then write disagree. Sometimes, the smallest comment is a way of standing up for what's fair, for a few seconds. No one said anything. The room felt strangely distant, like I was watching it from outside my own body. I looked at Lorraine, then at Emily, still smiling beside her, and something inside me settled into place. Not panic, not even anger, clarity. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't try to explain why this was wrong, even though every part of me knew it was, because deep down, I understood something I hadn't been willing to admit for years. No explanation was going to change this. Slowly, I reached into my bag. My fingers brushed against the envelope I had been carrying for months. It was slightly worn at the edges, like it had been waiting for this exact moment longer than I had the courage to admit. I pulled it out and placed it gently on the table in front of Lorraine. She frowned, the smile slipping just a little. "What's that?" I met her eyes, my resignation. The words came out steady, calm, final, for a brief second. No one reacted. It was like the room needed time to catch up with what I had just said. Then Emily's smile faltered. Lorraine blinked, then let out a short, sharp laugh. "Okay, that's not funny." "Ruby, sit down." I didn't move. "I'm serious," I said quietly. Effective immediately. Her expression changed. The amusement disappeared, replaced by irritation. "You can't just resign like this. We're in the middle of a transition." I let out a slow breath. "I've been doing the work of 3 people for 10 years. I replied. "I'm not training a 4th. A heavy silence dropped over the room. I could feel everyone watching, but for the first time. It didn't matter. Lorraine's voice hardened. "You don't get to decide when you leave." I picked up my bag. "Actually," I said, standing up, "I do." And just like that. After 10 years of staying, I finally chose to walk away. The moment I turned toward the door, everything behind me shifted. "Ruby! Wait!" Lorraine's voice cracked. Just slightly. Not the polished, controlled tone she always used. Something sharper, something urgent. I paused, but I didn't turn around yet. "You're not thinking clearly," she continued. "Faster now. Sit down. We can talk about this." Talk. For 10 years. There had been nothing to talk about. I slowly faced her again. The room felt tighter, heavier, like everyone was holding their breath. Her expression had changed completely. The confidence was gone, replaced by something closer to panic. "Just stay until the end of the quarter," she said, lowering her voice. "We'll revisit your compensation. I can push for a raise, maybe even a title adjustment." I almost smiled. Now she wanted to negotiate. "I've already given you 10 years. I said quietly. "I'm not giving you another few months." Her jaw tightened. The softness disappeared as quickly as it came. "You're making a mistake," she snapped. "Do you have any idea how this will look, walking out like this?" I didn't answer. Because for the first time, I didn't care how it looked. I turned back toward the door again, and that's when her voice cut through the room. Louder, sharper. "If you leave right now, I will make sure no company hires you again." That made me stop, not out of fear. Not this time. I turned slowly, meeting her eyes, for the first time in years. She didn't seem powerful. She seemed small. A faint smile touched my lips. Not out of kindness, but certainty. "Good luck with that," I said. Then I walked out, behind me. I could hear her calling my name, louder now, almost desperate, but the sound faded with every step I took, and when the elevator doors finally closed, a strange, unfamiliar feeling settled in my chest. For the first time in 10 years, I was in control. When the elevator reached the ground floor, I expected to feel something powerful, relief, freedom, maybe even satisfaction. Instead, I felt nothing, just a strange, hollow quiet. The lobby looked exactly the same as it always did. People walking in and out, phones in hand, conversations blending into background noise. The world hadn't changed, but I had. I stepped outside, and the rain had slowed to a light drizzle. The air felt cooler, sharper against my skin. I walked across the parking lot almost on autopilot. my mind finally catching up with what I had just done. What have I done? The question echoed louder with every step. I wasn't reckless. I wasn't impulsive. I was the dependable one, the person who stayed when things got hard, the one who fixed problems instead of walking away from them. And yet, I had just walked away from everything. I sat in my car, hands resting on the steering wheel, staring through the windshield without really seeing anything. For 10 years. That building had been my routine, my identity, my stability. Now it was just a place behind me. My phone started buzzing. Once, twice, then nonstop. Calls, messages, notifications stacking one after another. I didn't need to check to know who it was. I turned the phone face down on the passenger seat. I couldn't deal with it. Not yet. The drive home felt longer than usual. Even though nothing had changed, every familiar street suddenly felt unfamiliar, like I was moving through a version of my life that no longer fit. When I finally stepped into my apartment, the silence hit me harder than anything Lorraine had said. No emails waiting, no deadlines, no pressure hanging over me. Just quiet. I dropped my bag by the door and sat down on the couch, staring at the blank wall in front of me. For the first time in years, there was nothing I had to do, and that terrified me. The silence didn't last long. About an hour later, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. And for a second, I just sat there, staring at the door like it might disappear if I ignored it. But it rang again, more insistent this time. When I opened it, I saw Natalie. She stood there with a paper bag in one hand and 2 cups of coffee in the other, her expression soft but knowing. I figured you'd either be crying, overthinking, or pretending you're fine, she said gently. So I came prepared for all 3. I let out a small laugh, the first real sound I'd made since getting home, and stepped aside to let her in. We sat at the kitchen counter, eating in silence for a few minutes. The normalcy of it felt strange, almost unreal. Then she looked at me. "You really did it," she said. "I did." She nodded slowly, then took a breath. "There's something you need to know." Something in her tone made me straighten. "Lorraine never planned to promote you," she said quietly. The words landed heavier than anything that had happened that morning. "What the board approved a senior role years ago." Natalie continued. "HR recommended you. You were the top candidate every single time." My chest tightened. "Then why didn't it happen?" Natalie hesitated for a moment, like she didn't want to say the next part out loud. "Because Lorraine blocked it," she said finally. "Every time, I felt like the ground shifted beneath me. She told them you weren't leadership material," Natalie added, "that you were a workhorse." The word hit harder than it should have. Not valued, not respected, just useful. For 10 years. I thought I was building something. Turns out, I was just holding it together for someone else, before I could fully process what Natalie had just said. My phone buzzed again on the counter. This time, I picked it up. Unknown number. Normally, I would have ignored it, but something about the timing made me hesitate. I tapped the notification and opened the voicemail transcription. "Hello? Ruby Dean, this is Marcus Hale from Corporate Compliance. We need to speak with you regarding recent events at Hallbrook Operations Group." My grip tightened slightly. Compliance. They didn't call people for small issues. Natalie watched my face change. "What is it?" I turned the phone toward her. She read it quickly, then looked back at me, eyes sharper now. "That's not random," she said. "Something's going on." My heart started beating faster, but not from fear. Something else. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. Because suddenly, everything I had been holding onto for years meant something. The late-night emails, the project files, the endless task lists that proved I had been doing far more than my role required. Messages where Lorraine dismissed promotions, notes from meetings that never turned into opportunities. And Emily. Questions so basic they should have disqualified her immediately. I had all of it. Proof that this wasn't just unfair. It was deliberate. I sat back slowly, exhaling as the realization settled in. Quitting hadn't erased my position. It had exposed it. They want your side of the story, Natalie said quietly. I nodded. For 10 years. No one had asked. For 10 years. I had stayed silent, thinking it was the safer choice. My phone buzzed again in my hand, this time. I didn't hesitate, because maybe walking away wasn't the end of something. Maybe it was the first move. I didn't call back right away, not because I was unsure, but because I needed to steady myself. 10 years of silence doesn't disappear in a single moment. It lingers, it hesitates, it questions whether speaking up will actually change anything. 2 hours later, I finally made the call. The line connected almost instantly. Ruby Dean. The voice was calm, professional. Yes, this is Marcus Hale from Corporate Compliance. Thank you for returning my call. Before we begin, I want to inform you that this conversation will be documented and that you are protected under internal whistleblower policy. Protected? That word felt unfamiliar. I understand. I said, "We've received multiple reports concerning your former manager," he continued. Favoritism, irregular hiring practices, and potential misuse of internal authority. We'd like to hear your experience. For a moment, I just sat there, holding the phone. Then, for the first time in 10 years, I told the truth, not emotionally, not angrily, just clearly. I explained how my workload increased year after year without recognition, how promotions were discussed but never delivered, how I became essential to operations, yet invisible in every decision that mattered. Marcus didn't interrupt. He didn't dismiss anything. He just listened. Really listened. Then he asked, regarding the recent hire, how qualified was she for the position she was given? I let out a quiet breath. She asked me how to open a spreadsheet. I said. There was a brief pause on the line. I see, he replied, his tone sharpening slightly. And you were asked to train her? Yes. Another pause. Longer this time. Do you have documentation to support what you've described? I looked at my laptop sitting on the table. Emails, files, records of everything. I have more than enough, I said. For the first time, I wasn't the one being questioned. I was the one holding the answers. 2 days passed in silence. No calls from Lorraine, no messages from HR, no pressure, no threats, nothing, and somehow, that silence felt louder than anything she had said before. On the third morning, my phone rang. This time, the caller ID wasn't hidden. Halbrook Operations Group, board office. My stomach tightened as I answered. Hello? Ruby Dean. This is Eleanor Price calling on behalf of the board of directors. We'd like to request your presence this afternoon regarding the ongoing compliance investigation. The board, not management, not HR. The people at the very top. Yes, I said quietly. I'll be there at 2:45 p.m. I walked back into the building I had left behind. But it didn't feel the same. I didn't feel small anymore. A security officer escorted me upstairs without a word. When I stepped into the conference room, everything was already in place. Several board members sat around the table. At the head was Chairman Victor Langford, known for his strict stance on internal misconduct. Across from them sat Lorraine. Her posture was rigid, her expression controlled, but I could see it. The tension, the cracks. Emily sat beside her, pale and silent. Marcus was there too, a thick folder resting neatly in front of him. My folder. Ruby. Please sit, Victor said. I did. He looked at Lorraine first. You stated that Ms. Dean resigned due to performance decline and instability. Do you stand by that Lorraine didn't hesitate? Yes. Marcus slid a document across the table. Is this your email stating that Miss Dean was the only employee capable of maintaining operational continuity? Lorraine's expression froze. That's out of context, she said quickly. Was Emily Carter hired based on qualifications? Another board member asked. Before Lorraine could answer, Emily spoke, her voice unsteady. I didn't apply, she said. she asked me to take the role. The room shifted. The truth was no longer hidden, and for the first time, Lorraine had nothing left to control. The room fell into a heavy silence after that. Chairman Langford folded his hands, his gaze steady as he looked between the documents. Marcus, and then Lorraine. "We've reviewed the evidence," he said calmly. "Emails, internal reports, and testimony." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. Ruby Dean's resignation was not voluntary. It was the result of sustained mismanagement, favoritism, and a clear violation of company policy. My chest tightened as I heard it said out loud. Not dismissed, not minimized, recognized. Langford turned toward Lorraine. "Effective immediately. Your employment with Hallbrook Operations Group is terminated. A full audit of your hiring and promotion decisions will follow." For a second, Lorraine didn't move. Then she stood abruptly, her composure finally breaking. "This is ridiculous. You're making a mistake." No one responded. Security stepped forward, and within moments, she was escorted out of the room, her voice fading into nothing. The door closed, and just like that, 10 years of silence ended. Langford shifted his attention to Emily. "Your appointment did not follow proper procedure. Your position is terminated, however. You are not under investigation." Emily nodded quietly, eyes down. Then he looked at me. "Ruby," he said, his tone softer now. "This company failed to recognize your value. We intend to correct that." I held his gaze, saying nothing. "We would like to offer you the position of Senior Operations Manager, effective immediately. This includes full back pay adjustment for the past 3 years." For a moment, I couldn't speak, not because of the offer, but because. Finally, I was seen. I took a slow breath. "This time," I said quietly, "things need to be different." Langford nodded. And for the first time, I believed it, because I hadn't just walked away to escape. I had walked away to be respected. I used to believe that staying silent was the same as being strong, that if I just worked harder, gave more, and waited patiently, someone would eventually notice my value. But this journey taught me something I can't unlearn. Your worth is not measured by how much you can endure. It's measured by what you're willing to stand up for. The moment I said enough, everything changed, not just around me, but inside me. If this story made you pause, reflect, or even see your own situation a little clearer, then you're already part of something meaningful. By subscribing, liking, or sharing this video, you're not just supporting a channel, you're helping someone else out there feel seen, feel understood, and maybe even find the courage to choose themselves too. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment and tell me what you would have done in my place. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for being part of a community that lifts others up. See you in the next story.